Hello, my audience. My newcomers, my name's Jake Allen Graham. I'm reviewing, um, it's one of the Avengers movie. I just forgot which one it was. I knew what it was before I recorded, but, wait a minute. I got a perfect idea. Since I can't remember which one it was specific, I'll just talk about all of them. And rate them all and give them a final verdict. This will include spoilers in this review of the saga of the Avengers movies, and it's going to all that I like and the bullshit and everything. So, I'm going to start with Avengers Endgame, the last one. Avengers Endgame, I give a 3 out of 10. Because the beginning and the middle is just set up for the end, is what it feels like. Nothing interesting in this movie actually happens in the movie before the end happens. That's the third act, where the battle of Thanos and the rematch of Thanos and the Avengers happen at the end. But the whole thing before that is paced so slow and nothing interesting happens. A lot of this movie is forgetful before the Avengers assemble. And slow. And not even funny slow. With given how long the runtime is. It's like around 3 fucking hours long. And it takes so much of the source to tell a story this time around more seriously than normal. And less funny jokes this time around. But the problem is, the story's not interesting, unimaginative, and is going more for that grounded real world look and less for the comic book world look, so you'll see less comic book characters because they've been snapped away from the Thanos snap. And the world's moved on, gone better so much so that you might not need to do the Avengers gig because they're quitting retirement because Cap does and everyone else wants to. But the world no longer needs the Avengers because Thanos' plan not only did so much damage, but also did so much good. Like a world where no longer needs to do the Avengers as world life saving problems. Answer call, but so it's kind of briefly mentioned, then briefly brushed over, and then to make room for the Avengers having lunch, ice cream, and Ben Jerry's and shit, and like that, pizza, and Bloody Mary's Thor's binging on. Oh, because he's a fat drunk loser now, and an unlikable prick. On paper. In the final draft of the script. But with the talent of Chris Evans, he seems to forget that he's kind of this unlikable douchebag now, Thor, and a fucking loser picking on a kid, telling he's going to kill a kid just for being him in a game that he's not his friends and him and I is as good as the kid. That's a minor. And this is kind of a punk he has become. Thor's become an asshole. More than Hulk. Savage Hulk from Ragnarok. And, God, I hate this bastard. And he cries in a lot about not being as cool as he used to back in his prime when he was skinny and less of a man now. What's the point of having this asshole on screen other than for comedic gags? I don't know. What's the point of having any of these characters other than for comedic gags when they're just using them for comedic gags at this point? I mean, the jokes practically write themselves in the script. And this makes me feel old. Watching this movie makes me feel like I'm old. Like I'm 45 when I'm actually 29. This movie makes me feel like I'm at the age when you're ready to have a midlife crisis. It makes me feel that old. Avengers Endgame is why I give it a 3 out of 10. I granted I liked the third act, but I hated the rest. It was just so painfully uninteresting, slow. I couldn't give a fuck up prior before the third act with Thanos uh, invading the past, invading the future with the past, with time travel, forwarding in the future and only to lose against Iron Man and snapped away because Iron Man snapped him away with the Infinity Stones, blah blah blah, him and his army. It was nice pace, but I wish the rest of all this interesting stuff happened in this movie other than just the end of the third act, the beginning of the end and the end of the end. That's the only thing interesting happened in this movie. And it's like by the time it got interesting, it's like it was already over. God, this sucked. That just took forever to get going. I'm sorry, I'm not going to talk about all the Avengers movie because I feel old talking about this one. So old I need a rest, like a nap. I'm 29. Why do I feel this tired talking about this movie because it's so boring. A lot of it is why I give it a 3 out of 10. It was cool to see Captain finally say the Avengers catchphrase assembly before they launch into battle like in the comics. But I just wish it was in a better movie. Because this movie was so slow. That's why I give the Avengers Endgame a 3 out of 10. Anyway, that's my review on Avengers Endgame. Why that was pretty lame of a flick. So tiring watching these movies. I was more tired of watching this than Mockingjay Part 1 and 2. Hunger Games with Jennifer Lawrence. I enjoy those movies more. Ugh. But those were slow, even though even though Jennifer Lawrence great eye candy in those movies. But so that's the only downside. The movie sucked. Like not as bad as this movie though. And you would think, oh well, at least we have Scarlett Johansson replying as her role as I can for the audience. Until you find out they kill her off pretty early on, was to get the Soul Stone plot MacGuffin. So it's actually at the halfway point. I think she dies, or early on in the before, just before the halfway point. Like goes, I think it's like I think it's the beginning of the halfway point, but after the beginning has already wrapped up is when she dies in this movie. It's like, and then you're like wondering, okay, I have no eye candy to watch this movie now, and I hate everything about this movie. The script wasn't good, the stories, the characters, the effects of the CGI looked not fully done as the first Avengers was the Infinity War one, part one. It's like, this has sucked all around. So much of it, there was layers of suck on this movie. I mean, I believe my 5-year-old kindergarten self could do a better job writing a goddamn full script for this movie than what the writers came up with. Because man, this is pretty unimaginative stuff. That just don't. A lot of it sucks. A lot of it's not funny because the jokes often hit past home run and miss the mark with me often while being constantly thrown at you with jokes, lowbrow jokes, and the jokes are like usually just number two premium. Like we see Scotland shits himself after reverting back in from old man to a baby to his regular proper age, from and also a teenager, and also a 5-year-old and stuff. Blah blah blah. It's just that's. And then we find out he's not sure which version of him shit himself while being in the suit. And that's played for laughs, I guess. But so is time travel saying the word time travel is played for laughs, I guess, by Hulk. And so is lunch by Hulk gag when he hands Scott takeout after he loses his takeout with a taco. So made by takeouts and shit and lunches, funny, supposed to be, I guess. And nobody still knows who Scott Lang is except for Hulk, Verena, and that would be Tony, and Rhodey forgot who Scott Lang was. The Guardians don't know who Scott Lang is. Forgot after reuniting with him after the 5-year time jump. Is still thrown as a joke, saying, "Who's the Ant-Man? He sucks, right? Ha ha, very funny." It's like, that's like, everyone forgot faking Scott Lang as a joke. Doesn't make it funny. It just makes me wonder, what are they doing? That's the best they could come up with for the jokes? I'm convinced that preschool could come up with better jokes. Me, preschool self, could come up with better jokes than this movie. And to me, Cookie Monster was funny at that age. Was a funny comedian that he has a character. And that was the funniest, that's the funniest thing I thought is the character. As a character I would watch on TV. I have all the funny characters on Sesame Street and all the channels that I found funny. Like, but this, yeah, that's how, but the thing is, this is just not a funny movie. It's just lame. So, yeah, uh, this movie, Avengers Endgame, I'm giving it a 3 out of 10 because it was exhausting to watch and talk about. This was a lame movie. Okay, goodbye. Like this video, hit the subscribe button. See you in my next review, whatever that is on. Looking for the off button.